My mother abandoned me for her perfect new family for 10 years. But when I inherited millions from my aunt, they all showed up begging for money, and I slammed the door in their faces. I'm 26 years old. I work in digital marketing, and I need to get this story off my chest because what happened basically destroyed any illusion I had about what family means. The thing is, looking back, I should have seen it coming from the beginning. But I guess when you're a kid, you just want to believe things are going to be okay, you know? That your mom is going to protect you and that the people who are supposed to love you actually do. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning. My dad died when I was 7 years old. Heart attack. Completely unexpected. Like the man was 35 years old and relatively healthy. Or so we thought. One day he was playing with me at the park, and the next week my mom was explaining to me that Dad had gone to heaven and wasn't coming back. I don't remember much from that time, honestly, just fragments. Like my mom crying in the kitchen at 3 in the morning, or the funeral where there were a bunch of people I didn't know telling me to be strong. What I do remember perfectly is the feeling of emptiness. Like someone had ripped a piece out of my life and left a huge hole that was never going to fill. The next few years were just Mom and me. She worked as an administrative assistant at an accounting firm, long shifts, and I spent a lot of time with babysitters or in after-school programs. We weren't rich, definitely not, but we were okay. We had enough. Mom always made sure I had what I needed for school, decent clothes, food on the table. It was hard for her, I know, raising a kid alone while still dealing with her own grief, but she made it work. And I loved her. Obviously, I loved her. She was my mom, and we had gone through something horrible together. So when I turned 14, she met David. I don't know exactly where they met. I think on some dating app or maybe through friends from work. It was never totally clear to me. At first, he seemed fine, I guess. David was a sales manager at some tech company, made good, money, had a son from his first marriage. My mom was happy, happier than I'd seen her in years, and honestly, I just wanted her to be okay. If David made her happy, then great, right? But things changed fast when they got married, and David and his son Connor moved in with us. Connor was 17 when we became family, and from day one he made it clear I was a nuisance in his life. He was that kind of kid who always has a face like something smells bad. You know what I mean? Tall, athletic, popular at his school, and with a shit attitude toward anyone who wasn't himself. And I was just this skinny one, 4-year-old kid trying to navigate middle school and deal with the fact that suddenly there were 2 strangers living in my house. Connor destroyed my stuff constantly. And when I say constantly, I mean it was like his favorite hobby. He'd take my video games and scratch them, borrow my bike without asking and return it all beat up, go into my room when I wasn't there, and move all my stuff around. Once he broke my new headphones, the ones my mom had given me for Christmas like 3 months before. He just stepped on them and said, "Whoops, it was an accident." It wasn't an accident. I saw him do it on purpose. And the worst part of all is that when I complained to my mom or David, they always, and I repeat, always blamed me. David would say things like, "Boys will be boys," or that I was being dramatic, that Connor was just playing around. My mom, and this is what hurt the most, my mom would just nod and tell me to try to get along better with Connor, that he was also going through a hard time with his parents' divorce and the move. As if I wasn't going through anything, as if my life hadn't been completely altered too. I started to feel like I was invisible in my own house, or worse, that I was an annoyance everyone wished would disappear. Things got even weirder when my mom and David announced they were expecting a baby. I was like 15, almost 16 at that point, and honestly, my first reaction was pure panic. Because I could already see how it was going to be. This baby was going to be their perfect child together, and I was going to be pushed even further into the background. And guess what? I was right. When Oliver was born, which, yes, is a nice name, and the baby was adorable, I'm not going to lie, everything changed again. Suddenly, the whole house revolved around this tiny human who did nothing but eat, sleep, and cry, which, okay, is normal with a baby. I get it. But what wasn't normal was what happened next. David decided they needed to convert my room into the baby's room because it was bigger and had better natural light, or some excuse like that. Like, they literally went into my bedroom one day when I was at school and started moving my stuff. I came home and there were boxes everywhere. My bed was taken apart, and David tells me very casually, "Oh yeah, you're moving to the guest room. We need this space for Oliver." They didn't even ask me, didn't even give me real notice, just decided for me. The guest room was basically a glorified closet at the back of the house, barely fit a twin bed and a small desk, and the walls were so thin I could hear everything that happened in the rest of the house. I felt like an intruder, like I was living in a cheap hotel inside what was supposed to be my home. I learned to make myself invisible. I joined every club I could at school, debate, theater, anything that would keep me out of the house. I got a part-time job at a coffee shop near school when I turned 16, worked every shift they'd give me. On weekends, I'd stay at friends' houses as much as I could. My best friend back then, Jake, his family was amazing. His mom always told me I was welcome whenever, and I basically lived there on Fridays and Saturdays. I think she knew something was wrong at my house. She never said anything directly, but she always made sure there was an extra plate at dinner for me. There was one moment that really stuck, with me. Like that moment where you realize you really don't matter to the people who are supposed to love you. I was like 17, almost 18, and it was a Friday night. I'd had a long shift at the coffee shop and got home around 9 at night, tired and hungry. The house was empty. Completely empty. There was a note on the kitchen table that said, "Went out to dinner. There are leftovers in the fridge," in my mom's handwriting. They hadn't even invited me, hadn't even thought to wait for me or ask if I wanted to go. They just left, the four of them, David, my mom, Connor, and Oliver, like the perfect family I apparently wasn't part of. I sat in that empty kitchen eating cold leftover chicken and just thought, seriously? This is how we're doing this? And it was like something broke inside me that night. Like I finally accepted that I didn't matter to them, that I'd never really mattered since David came into our lives. But wait, because it gets worse. Connor, who by then was like 22 and technically already an adult but still lived at home because David paid for everything, decided to throw a party one night when my parents took Oliver to visit David's grandparents. I stayed because I had final exams and needed to study. I specifically told Connor I was going to be studying and to please not make noise. You know what he did? Invited like 30 people, blasted music at full volume, and when I tried to tell them to turn it down, they literally kicked me out of the living room of my own house. I locked myself in my tiny room, trying to focus on physics, while the rest of the house turned into total chaos. The next day, the house was trashed. There was spilled beer on the carpet, overturned furniture, garbage everywhere, and worst of all, someone had gone into my room and thrown all my stuff around. My books were on the floor, my clothes pulled out of drawers. My laptop, which I'd bought with my own money from work, had beer spilled on it and wouldn't turn on anymore. I was furious, like I'd never been so angry in my life. When David and my mom got home and saw the mess, guess who they blamed? Me. Connor said I had invited the people, that it had been my idea, and they believed him. They believed him over me. My mom didn't even let me explain, just started yelling about responsibility and respect, and David said I was going to have to pay for any damage. They didn't even bother to ask for my side of the story. That was the moment I decided I was leaving as soon as I turned 18. It didn't matter anymore if I had everything planned out perfectly or not. I just needed to get out of there before I completely lost my mind. I started saving every penny I earned at the coffee shop, looked for roommates and Facebook groups for students, researched what I needed for college. My advisor at school, Mr. Jacobs, helped me a lot during that time. Like he really pushed me to think big and not settle. He helped me with scholarship applications, with essays, with everything. I think he also knew something was wrong at home. He had that way of looking at me with concern when I told him I was fine. The day I turned 18 was liberating and terrifying at the same time. I'd gotten a room in an apartment with 2 guys from college. It wasn't anything fancy, basically a box with a window, but it was mine. I got home after school that day, packed all my stuff into 2 suitcases and 3 boxes, and told my mom and David I was leaving. David literally laughed in my face, said something like, "Good luck surviving out there. Kid, You'll be back in a week when you realize how expensive everything is. My mom said nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just stood there with Oliver in her arms, looking at me like I was a stranger. That hurt more than anything David could have said. I was hoping at least she would try to stop me, tell me not to go, that things were going to get better, something. But nothing. Just silence. I moved out that same day. My friend Jake helped me, load my stuff in his truck and drove me to the apartment. That first night in my new room, I sat on the floor, because I still didn't have furniture, just my mattress and my boxes. I cried for everything. For my dad who had died, for my mom who had chosen another family over me, for all those years feeling invisible and worthless. But I also felt relief, like a giant weight coming off my shoulders. I didn't have to walk on eggshells in my own house anymore, didn't have to put up with Connor or David's indifference. I was alone, yes, but I was free. The next few months were tough, I'm not going to lie. I worked full-time at the coffee shop while going to classes at the local community college, studied marketing because I was good at that social media and advertising stuff. Money was tight. Like there were weeks where I ate ramen every day because it was all I could afford, but I made it work. None of my family contacted me during all that time. Not a call, not a message, nothing. It was like I had ceased to exist for them the day I walked out that door. And honestly, I didn't reach out to them either. Why would I? They'd already made clear what they thought of me. Until like a year after I left, my mom called me. And she didn't call to ask how I was or if I needed anything or if maybe, I don't know, she missed me. No. She called to tell me David had updated his will and was leaving everything to Connor and Oliver. That she thought I should know so I wouldn't have wrong expectations in the future. Like, seriously? You're calling me to tell me I've officially been cut from the family even in death? I didn't even know I was supposedly in the will in the first place, had never thought about it, had never expected anything from David. I told her, okay, thanks for letting me know, and hung up. I didn't cry that time. I didn't have any tears left for those people. Life went on. I graduated from community college, transferred to a 4-year university with a first in partial scholarship, got a better job at a small marketing agency. Things were going well, or at least stable. I had friends. I had a decent apartment. I had a life. I wasn't rich or anything, but I was proud of what I'd built on my own, without anyone's help. And then I received a letter from a law firm when I was 24. At first I thought it was spam or some mistake, like those letters that say you won something, but it's actually a scam. But no, it was real. My great-aunt Eleanor, who honestly I barely remembered, had died and left me everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Her house, which was a beautiful mansion in a quiet neighborhood, several plots of land, investment accounts, a trust fund, it all added up to millions. Millions. I sat in the lawyer's office, MS Halper, while she explained everything to me, and I couldn't process what I was hearing. I kept waiting for someone to jump out and say, "Surprise! It's a joke." Dad's older sister, never married, never had kids, made her fortune in real estate decades ago. I'd seen her maybe 3 or 4 times in my entire life, at funerals and family gatherings when my dad was still alive. Apparently, she'd been following my life from afar. The lawyer told me Eleanor had asked for updates about me over the years, that she knew what happened with my mom and the new marriage, that she knew I'd moved out on my own, and she decided I deserved her legacy more than anyone. The letter she left for me said something like, "Ryan always reminded me of your father. He has the same spirit of perseverance and his kindness. I know you'll do something good with this." I didn't tell my mom or David anything at first. I kept everything private, hired an accountant, a financial advisor, made sure everything was in order. I moved into Aunt Eleanor's house, which was like 100 times better than anywhere I'd ever lived. I sold some of the land I didn't need, invested the money wisely. Suddenly, I had financial security for life, could pay off my student loans completely, could buy real furniture, could breathe without worrying about money every second. And then, like 3 months after I received the inheritance, my phone started ringing. My mom was calling twice a day, David was leaving voicemails, even Connor sent me a text message, the first in years. Everyone wanted to reconnect. Everyone was suddenly worried about me and wanted to fix things. At first, I ignored the calls, but eventually I answered one call from my mom, just to see what she wanted. And oh, surprise! Turns out they'd found out about my inheritance. I don't know how, probably through some gossipy relative, and suddenly they needed financial help. Connor wanted money to start a business. David mentioned they were having trouble paying the mortgage. My mom said something about Oliver needing special therapy that insurance didn't cover. It was all about money. Nothing was about actually wanting me in their lives. I told them no. Simple and direct, no. To think of it like David's will, but in reverse. They had cut me out of their life, and now I was doing the same. My mom cried. Said I was being cruel. How could I turn my back on my family? And I just laughed, like a bitter, sad laugh. Because seriously? Now we were family? After years of ignoring me, of making me feel invisible, of choosing Connor and David over me in every situation? I told her she'd had years to be my family, years to defend me, years to show me she loved me, and she never did. That I wasn't going to reward that behavior with money now. I hung up and blocked the number, but David didn't give up so easily. He showed up at my door unannounced like 2 weeks later, with Oliver, who by then was like 9 years old, basically using him as a human shield. He rang the doorbell, and when I opened it, there he was, with Oliver holding his hand, saying he just wanted to talk, that we needed to be adults. About this. That Oliver missed me and wanted to get to know me better. I felt so much rage in that moment, like using an innocent kid to try to manipulate me. I didn't let them in. I told David he needed to leave my property immediately or I was going to call the police. He started yelling, saying I was ungrateful, that everything I had was because of luck and I didn't deserve it, that I was selfish for not helping my family. Oliver started crying because David was yelling, and that's what made me close the door in his face. I called the police anyway. Not because of Oliver, but because of David, and reported the incident. I ended up getting a no-contact order against David for harassment. I changed my phone number, removed my address from all the public records I could, blocked all members of that family on social media. Basically made myself invisible to them, in the same way they made me invisible for years. My mom tried one last time. Sent me a physical letter to my work. I don't know how she got that address, full of guilt trip about how I was hurting her, how Oliver was asking about me, how the family was falling apart. I responded through my lawyer with a cease and desist letter. No more contact, period. It's been like 2 years since all that. I'm 26 now, still working in marketing, though honestly, I could not work if I wanted to. But I like my job. It gives me purpose. Aunt Eleanor's house feels like a real home. I have a couple of close friends who come over often. I have peace. I'm not dating anyone right now. Romantic relationships have been complicated because I have obvious trust issues, but I'm working on that with a therapist who's really good. Sometimes I think about Oliver, the only innocent one in all this. I wonder how he is. If he remembers that day at my door. If he understands why I'm not in his life. Maybe someday, when he's older, if he wants to seek me out on his own, I could give him a chance. But with the rest of them, with my mom, with David, with Connor, that door is closed forever. There's no amount of apologies or time that can erase what they did to me, how they made me feel during all those years. Family is supposed to support you, protect you, make you feel valued, and they did exactly the opposite. The weird thing is, I don't hate them. Not anymore. I was angry for a long time. Yes, furious even. But now I just feel nothing. It's like they're strangers I once knew. People who shared a space in my life for a while, but who don't mean anything anymore. And that's okay. I've built my own life, with my own people, and it's better than it ever would have been if I'd stayed trying to earn the love of people who clearly couldn't give it to me. The other day I found an old photo of my dad and me at the park. I must have been like 5 years old, and he's carrying me on his shoulders. We're both laughing about something. I put it in a frame in my living room. I think he'd be proud of me, of how I survived everything, of how I didn't let them break me completely. And Aunt Eleanor, too. She clearly saw something in me that was worthwhile, something my own mother couldn't or wouldn't see. I'm living for them now, for the people who actually believed in me, not for those who abandoned me. And I guess that's enough.